Today's episode is brought to you by...
Hi, I'm Jeff Goulding and I'm a Liverpool author.
And I'm Kieran Smith, the Liverpool historian.
Together, we've been working on a book entitled The Untouchables, Anfield's Band of Brothers.
It's a great story about one of the greatest sides in Liverpool's history who won back-to-back titles in the 1920s.
Yeah, this is a team that is absolutely packed with incredible characters. Men who fought on the battlefields of Europe in the First World War and returned home to claim 2 league titles in a row.
And it's due for release in the UK in September. And thanks to our friendship, the Liverpool Connection podcast, it's also going to be made available through them in the United States.
Welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I am your host, Dazza. I'm actually going solo today as Steve has got a footy match. But our special guest today is Merseyside Artist of the Year from 2020 is Paul Curtis. Good morning, Paul.
Hi, Daz. Thanks for having us on.
You're welcome. I'm like I said before, I'm glad we finally got you on because I defo want to talk about your artwork, which is absolutely boss.
Cheers.
Let's start at the beginning then. Like I said, I always like to ask why Liverpool Football Club and your first Anfield experience.
Well, it's a bit of an odd one because actually my dad was an Evertonian, but he had a passing interest in the game. He'd go to the game now and then, but he wasn't a mad blue. But my mum's side of the family were all Liverpudlians, and I suppose they were the greater influence because my dad was an only child, but all my cousins were on my mum's side. So whenever you were around the fire, like my nan's house or whatever, it was all Liverpool. Mm-hmm. In fact, my granddad used to stop me on the doorstep and say, "What team do you support?" And he wouldn't let me in until I said Liverpool. So I guess that was how I became a Liverpool fan. It was a family thing, even though my dad's an Evertonian. But he was kind of like, I was on his own. So, and then obviously when I was starting to sort of get an awareness of football and understand the professional game a little bit, when you're sort of like 6 or 7 years old, Liverpool were obviously having a massively successful time. It was sort of the mid-80s. So yeah, the problem with that is you assume that it'll always be that way. Because, yeah, you just, when you're a kid, Liverpool win, and that was how it was. And it comes as a shock when you get a bit older and they went through the 90s and that. But, yeah, the first game I went to was Liverpool versus Newcastle. We won 3-0. It was my dad's cousin who took me, Ian French. He took me to the first game because my dad wasn't going to go to a Liverpool game. And took me to that 3-0. I don't remember too much about it, except I do remember asking why Jan Molby wasn't tracking back on a ball or something. So, and then I think the next game, he took me to another one that season. I think it was against Norwich, and I think that was 2-0, but can't remember exactly. So they were the first couple of games I went to. And then I didn't go to that much after that, but it was just until I sort of started going on my own when I was like 14, 15. Mm-hmm. And it was when it was still like, as a kid, it was like £4 to get into the cop, which seems mad now, but yeah. So yeah, I started going. But I wasn't at every game. I'd just go as and when like gangs of mates were going, you just tag along with them. So yeah, it was more family that kind of got me into the love affair, if you want to call it that. But it helped that the team was successful at the time.
Yeah, the love-hate affair. I remember going, like, my granddad took me when I was 6. So I'm a 70s kid. So it was 76 was my first one. And then like yourself as well, you know, once my granddad passed away, and I didn't go for a while. And then I was 15. And then, you know, your mates are all like, you know, it's a day out for you, you know. You think you're Billy Big Balls when you go by yourself, and Yeah, it was nice to pay, you know, not much money then. It's absolutely insane now. And plus, you know, with the whole ticket problems they've been having, you know, back in the day, we could just go through the turnstile and you're already, you know, in the ground.
Yeah, it's technology, isn't it? But now they can trace you better.
Yeah, I know it's a bit scary, but yeah, I can sometimes barely work my my Samsung. I've got to get the missus to help me. Technology, not so good with. So yeah, she actually does all the editing on the shows, because if she didn't do it, there wouldn't be a show. So I'm thankful to her. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think with a lot of newbies that support Liverpool, you know, they've started on a winning format already, while, you know, we've gone through the 90s and 2000s where it was absolutely dire. I don't think a lot of people realise like how bad Liverpool were back then.
Yeah, I mean, there were sort of like little periods where there were little reasons to celebrate, but on the whole, I mean, yeah, there were times it was depressing, but I think, as I was saying then, we were kind of spoilt. So if you go to like sort of grandfather's generations, they would have known like the times before Shankly where there wasn't that much to celebrate. So, but for my generation, it was a bit of a shock that all of a sudden we weren't winning things. It was just an assumption that's the way it had always been, and that's the way it always will be. Mm-hmm. Even though you knew from history that it wasn't always like that, but you base everything on experience. So yeah, there were moments of joy in the 90s, and we had the odd good player in that, but there was a lot of guff about, and
yeah. You know, after the loss, I used to come home and just tear off me jersey and just throw it down on the ground and be like, "That's it, I'm finished with yous. I'm done," you know. And then the next weekend you put it back on and you go down. So yeah, but you know, we still love Liverpool, whether you win, lose, or draw. That's the thing. The football club draws you in, and you just you can't get back out.
Yeah, but I think, like you're saying today, new fans, and I don't think it's just Liverpool. I think there is a certain, and it's society in general, there's a lack of patience. Mm-hmm. And I find that a bit depressing. You know, you have a couple of draws and you see people calling for Klopp's head and things, and it's like, come on, let's have some reality check. And I know it's a bad example, but it's like looking at what's happening at Arsenal at the moment. They've had a terrible start, but if that had happened sort of like midway through the season, it's not half as bad. It just looks really bad because it's the start. Mm-hmm. So every group of fans now, it's so short term, and I think having lived through the 90s, yeah, I mean, we weren't the worst team in the world, but there were times where it was depressing, and I think the only way we got out of it was to take a long-term approach. I think one of the problems we had in the 90s was always trying to buy the missing piece. Mm-hmm. And then it didn't work and it was a disaster. And the only way to get out of it eventually was to sort of come to terms that we're not the best team in the world anymore, and that we need to buy more of a team than individuals. And I think the club slowly began to learn that, and we used to have disastrous transfer markets. We haven't had one for a while. So
we're not buying anyone. That's why.
Well, true. But I was thinking about that, and I was thinking maybe that's one of the reasons. It's like saying to a friend, it's like, would you rather buy 5 players and have 2 of them turn out good and 3 of them rubbish, which would have been a good transfer for us in the 90s, a good summer. I said, or just get 1 or 2 players that turn out to be good. It's, you know.
Well, I always like to put the picture up when people moan and groan about, you know, like who we haven't bought or who we have bought. And then you do the team that had like Cole. They did the signings, and it was like Cole and
Chesky, was it?
Yeah. so I always put that up and go, would you rather it be those three again? I mean, for me, transfer, like the transfer window is just, I try and keep off of Twitter as much as possible, because people just, it's basically who they want, not really what Liverpool wants. That they, why aren't we going for Mbappe? We should be going for him. And FSG, they don't work like that. They haven't worked like that since day one. So why are they going to start now?
Yeah, and I agree. And these are like Hollywood signings that aren't always the best thing to do. I mean, if you spend that money and it pays off, great. But then you've messed up your whole salary structure. That gets messed up. And then it's like, well, look the way Harvey Elliott's come through. So buying him a couple of years ago, I was beginning to wonder if he'd ever break through. But buying that kind of player is now paying off, and I don't think that gets the sort of recognition it deserves.
Well, I mean, what's the point of having academy players if you're never gonna test them?
Yeah.
I mean, we'd never have a Trent, we'd never have a Curtis Jones. My issue though also is everybody wanted Mbappe, which he'd probably wanted 400k a week. Then the Liverpool Echo put out that Salah wants 500k, and everybody goes mental. Everybody's like, "Oh man, we should get rid of him if he wants that much." I'm like, "Yeah, but you wanted Mbappe for 400k a week. That makes no sense." I mean, Salah is world class. Yeah, it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, you don't know what to believe, but I like to say the Hollywood signings are great, but then they don't always work out. I mean, Barcelona could tell you that, so
exactly.
Be careful.
Come on, Katarina, you've only got 17 more matches or 10 more matches, and Liverpool got another 17 mil off of him, which is pretty good. It looks like a steal for him. I mean, he left for greener pastures, and that grass turned out brown.
Yeah. To a lesser extent, it was the same for Suarez, but he did have some success. But yeah, not that many players move on at the top of the game from Liverpool and do better. It's rare. I understand some of the players who aren't getting enough time. Yeah, that works for them, but.
Yeah, like Shaqiri. I mean, he deserved, to play, full-on football. I mean, he was barely playing for Liverpool. He was mostly injured, and that's another one as well. Like, everybody's like, why are we getting rid of him? I'm like, well, he was injury-prone. He barely played. Yeah, he had a good Euros, but that's it. I'm like, you got to let these players go. And, like you said, we have Harvey Elliott. But, I mean, he looks the real deal.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, he was already doing it out on loan, wasn't he? But, yeah, could he do it in the Premiership for Liverpool? And he seems to be. So, and we were all told, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago? I think it was 3 years ago now, that he was going to be a great player. But you hear that so many times. So it's great to sort of start to see it come to fruition for someone.
Yeah, well, we heard it for Harry Wilson as well. He was going to be like a top player, and he went out on loan like every single season. And again, sometimes you're just not good enough for Liverpool. I mean, all the best to him, but like I said, Harvey just there's something about him, some star quality. I mean, even against Chelsea, he was getting battered, and he was just getting on with it. And I think him going to the Championship and playing for Blackburn really helped, because the Championship is a bit more like hardcore, the tackling and everything. So I think that made him, turn out to be a bit more, like, get off me. So, yeah, I can't wait to see more of him.
Yeah, and it's good. I think it is something that's working for Liverpool now. Not every time, but I think the approach to loaning the players out, and I think you have to be careful where you loan them to, because you've got to loan them to a team that's going to sort of play in the sort of similar style to the way Liverpool play, and that I think you can make a massive mistake if you send a player to, I don't know, a long ball, donkey sort of kick inside. Yeah, you don't send them to the dogs to horse always.
Well, you can tell, like, I liked Ben Woodburn, you know, but I think a lot of pressure was put on him at an early age, and now he's gone to, you know, Hearts, and I don't think you'll see him back at Liverpool. I just don't. I hope he, you know, has a good season at Hearts and they offer him a contract. So, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's got to be tough. Like, and I'm sure you've played football as well as myself, and you know, at about 10 or 11, you think you're pretty good, you know, and then you go and try out for these, you know, teams, and then you're like, man, I'm not even close.
No, I was always aware that I was a journeyman. I was at peace with that.
Yeah, I kept trying, and then by 15, I was just like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. Yeah, my dreams are shattered, but you know, you go on to better things, and you know, live a happy life. And talking a happy life, it must be great to you know, be an artist and be able to you know, do the things you do.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like, it's a very rewarding job. I couldn't think of many others that, you know, every few days you finish a piece of work, stand back, and it's like you can admire what you've achieved, but then you have complete strangers, you know, giving you really positive feedback on it, which it's not being egotistical to say that does feel good. It naturally it does. I mean, people moan in the workplace that sometimes the boss just doesn't say thank you or well done. So I have like 1,000 bosses saying that, and it's like, that's nice. It can work the other way as well. If I have an absolute disaster, then they're going to be then I'll hear about that as well. But fortunately, that hasn't really happened yet. But well, yeah,
everybody has a different, you know, perspective on art. You know, something to somebody could be great, and then somebody could just look at it and go, I don't get it.
Yeah. But I do think that what I do kind of plays it safe a little bit. I've always said, because I'm doing street art, you can't be too self-indulgent. If I wanted to do something very abstract, or a study in my own inner spirit or something like that, doing it in the street where people are going to work, where grannies and school kids are walking past, that's not the place to be doing that.
Yeah, no Jackson Pollocks.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's not to say there isn't a place for that sort of art. Of course there's. But I think some art that's breaking boundaries, and this is just my opinion, and I'm happy for people to disagree, but that kind of breaking boundaries art, it's maybe more appropriate in a gallery because it's more of a niche. Whereas what I do, it's kind of, I'm aware of what the audience is, and the audience is a mass market. It's a popular market. It's every walk of life. So I'm always conscious of that. And you're kind of imposing yourself on people a bit. So you don't want to sort of take that for granted, or, you know, be selfish with that and make it all about yourself. It should be something. I've always thought that it's nice if people walk past my art and having a crappy day and it just makes them smile for a couple of seconds, then it's done something good. I don't want them to walk past my art and they're already having a crappy day and it makes them even feel even crappier. Do you know what I mean? It's so yeah, I think I play it quite safe. So, but you're right, there'll always be some that don't like it, and yeah, there'll be people who level it at me that I'm not breaking boundaries, and that's fair. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Well, how did you get started? I mean, what age were you when you were like, I'm all right at this?
Well, I only started doing this 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and I never planned to do it. So what happened was I used to work for the oil and gas industries, you know, North Sea Oil. So I worked for various companies. I was a geologist and I was working in a London office, and I lost my job. And it's not unusual in the oil industry to have peaks and troughs. It's normal. It's a boom and bust industry. So it was the first time I'd really been a casualty of it, though. Normally, within a year, 18 months, it's recovered. So I thought, well, I'll just sit it out. I actually went travelling for a year, made the most of it. And when I come back, I started applying for jobs. I was getting nowhere. It was actually quite dark days because it was getting quite depressing. And you start thinking to yourself, well, what if I never get back into it? And it's difficult because I was trained to do that. It's all I'd done all my life. So I was panicking a bit. I was like, I don't know what to do. I was living off savings and they were dwindling. I was like, crap, I need to get sorted here. So I started applying for all kinds of jobs. So I started like admin work and things like that. But because I was so specialised, I wasn't getting them. And then my sister was expecting and she said, if you're not doing anything, why don't you paint the back bedroom for us for the baby? And I decided to paint a mural and just to fill the time. And I did it was actually Bambi and like a woodland scene with some of the characters from Bambi. I took some photos and people were like, well, you know, you've got a talent there. Maybe that's something you could do until you're able to get proper work. And that's how I saw it. I thought I'll do the odd bedroom mural, maybe the odd restaurant, and then eventually I'll get back into the oil industry. But the fact is, things didn't pick up. And gradually, what I was doing in the artwork started to develop. So it was like, okay, maybe I have to make a decision here to just try and go full-time as an artist. So that's how it happened. But it was difficult getting work. And it was when I kind of made the decision that I was going to try and give art a real go that I did the Liver Bird wings. Because I needed some way of like promoting myself as an artist and promote my work.
What a way to start, though. I mean, if anybody hasn't gone, it's on Jamaica Street in the Baltic Triangle, and pretty much you don't have to be a Liverpool supporter. I mean, a lot of Liverpool supporters that come over, you know, go straight to it and get the picture taken with it. But it's everyone as well. You know,
I did make it. You know, it's Live Bird wings. I know sometimes Liverpool fans not from Liverpool forget that it is actually the emblem of the city, not the club. So I did very much play onto this. I mean, I called it for all Liverpool's Liver Birds, and it was kind of say like it's for people from the city, but it's also if you want to be part of the city for your visit, then you can. But I did it in the copper oxide green, and that's the colour of the Liver Bird wings on the statue above the Liver Bird building. So that was intentional. And like you say, I wanted it to represent the city. I didn't really want it to be anything to do with Liverpool. I wanted it to be welcoming to all kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like when I went back home 2 years ago, I went straight to it. It just makes me feel home for personal reasons. But when did you do that?
August 2017.
So it's been there for a while then. Yeah, I mean, it's still looking good. Do you go back and touch them up?
It's had a couple of like tags put on it, not major, so I fixed it. It did get one major tag, and then there was a bit of an outcry. Someone had done like sort of bubble style graffiti on it, and some guy who's a professional in graffiti removal, he was quite annoyed about it, and he went and removed it because they can remove it now by layer. It's that the technology's there, and he did it just off his own back because he was a bit upset that someone had done it. So that was nice. So it's good that it's been embraced, and I don't know what'll happen if the wall comes down, which is likely, but we'll see.
Oh, really? It's supposed to come down?
Yeah, but to be fair, even when I was painting it, they said, well, the wall will be coming down in the next 6 months, and that was 4 years ago. So that area of Liverpool is just getting developed so quick that there is a chance. But the owner of the wall and people have said to me, if that ever happens, they'd either crowdfund a replacement, or if they got enough money on crowdfunding, literally try and remove it brick by brick and reconstruct it brick by brick. Which would be interesting.
Try and do a Banksy.
Yeah, I don't know how easy that would be, but it'd be nice. But I mean, yeah, like you say, that was 4 years ago now, and kind of after I did it, I'm not saying I was the first to do wings, I wasn't, but after I did it, there was like a massive surge in places getting wings painted everywhere. I decided never to paint them again because it just undermines the original piece. But yeah, I think I still see people going to it, but you know, I think now when people ask to get wings painted, not by me, by any artist, it is a bit sort of like, nah, no, that was a few years ago now. We've kind of moved on.
Yeah, because I live in Austin, Texas. So, you know, I'm with the supporters group. So, you know, they always ask me like what to go see. And that's one of the first ones. But, I mean, the Baltic Triangle's great anyway, you know, all the restaurants and stuff. But, yeah, I always tell them like, go there first, get your picture taken there, and then on to the rest. How did the Henge one come about?
Yeah, it's a weird one because I'm a Liverpool fan, and up until that point, I'd done a lot of work for Tranmere, did a couple of bits for Everton, and I was like, nobody ever asked me to do Liverpool. What's going on? Is this like, is it like an ironic curse or something? So I was quite keen to do something for Liverpool. I was meant to do the Trent Alexander-Arnold mural.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a bit of a bit of pill that, because I did all the groundwork, I did the legal letter for them. They never gave me a penny. And then, the last minute they decided to go with an artist from Manchester, which amazed me, because they said they didn't think I was up to the job. Yeah, it was a bit bitter because I was like, well, you contacted me, I didn't contact you. So, but anyway, that's another story. So, yeah, not long after that, the guy who owns that building, he has it as an Airbnb. Now, it's not in one of the most popular streets in Anfield. In fact, you have to search a little bit to find it. But he just called me at the right times because I was still a little bit like seething about what had happened. So he said, I'm thinking again. I was like, I'll do it. So we got an absolute bargain, to be honest, because I was just really wanted to do it. So I just gave him like a nominal price. And went and did it. And it was like, for me, it was like, I wanted to prove a point as well. So, you know, I was like, I'll show that I can do this. Yeah. So I was like, so that was good for the guy in a way, because it was like, I spent longer on it than I maybe would have normally, but I was like, I want this to be perfect. I want to show that I can do this.
How long does it usually, I mean, like a big mural like that take?
It depends, but so normally a big portrait like that would be maybe 3 days, 2 or 3 days. But with him, because there was the trophy on it, so there was a lot more going on. There was both his hands, and I did the sort of second picture on it, which is Alan Hansen. So there was a lot more going on. So I think that did take, I can't remember now, but it maybe took 5 days to get it all done. Yeah, but as I say, I wanted it to turn out. I wanted it to showcase what I could do. And it wasn't my first Liverpool one. I did another one in Hotel Anfield. I don't know if you've seen that.
That's the Carragher one, right?
Carragher and Gerrard, yeah. It's in the European Cup. That's a lot smaller scale, but yeah, so I'd done that one, and then I did the Henge one afterwards. Yeah, and he's been really nice. Henge, he got in contact with us, and he was like, "We'll go down and get photos done." And that it hasn't happened, but it was partly because of COVID and all that happened. So, but yeah, I mean, I send him messages sometimes after the games, and he always gets back straight away. He's a nice fella.
Yeah, so you come on down now.
Yeah, I don't want to push him.
Not too much, but well, I mean, that's probably one of the. I mean, there's a bunch of they've been popping up all over the place now. You know, the Liverpool ones and now Everton ones, but it's one of the iconic ones because we won the league. You know, 30 years. So you know, him lifting the trophy for 30 years, and then you know doing the mural, it was got to make it feel damn good.
Yeah, yeah, it was well, like say, all the time and came together. I was going to do something earlier, and then I did say to the guy's not a mad Liverpool fan. He's just aware of the area he lives in. And I was, oh, sorry, it's actually an Airbnb, but he was aware of the area. So I was like, do you just want to hang on? Because if we win the league, that'll be the mural to have. And then when it became painfully obvious that we were going to win it, I was saying to him, let's do it now, do it in advance, and I'll superimpose. But he did say to me, because I was going to use the photo from the European Cup and just change it. But then he calmed me down and said, the last thing we want to do is do it, and then the season collapses. And he was right. And he's right that I would have got like a lot of crap for doing it before it was all sort of polished off. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I say, I wanted it to be different. I didn't want it to just be here's Hendo with the cup from a photo. In fact, that photo doesn't exist because if you look at the photos, when he does lift the cup, he holds it the wrong angle. Mm-hmm. So all you can see is the base on the photo. So I've had to change it. I won't tell you whose hands I used to fix it, but yeah, it's a superimposition of 3 different photos to get it to work. And then I was like, but rather than just do that, you know, there's a lot of new fans, as you mentioned, to Liverpool. We need to recognise the past. So we're talking about putting Shankly and that behind. I was like, well, Shankly's gets painted all the time. I said, why don't we have the last time we won it and the present day? So took the photo of Alan Hansen lifting the old First Division Cup, which I actually think is the best trophy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and did that in black and white. So it was meant to sort of represent like that's the history. This is the future, present. I did get a little bit of criticism because people were like, "Oh, Alan Hansen looks like an afterthought." I was like, "Well, it wasn't." The point of it was that we sometimes get accused of looking to the past. We should look to the past, but now we're looking to the future more. That was kind of the message.
Yeah, that's what I try and like. One reason why we do, you know, this podcast as well, it's because we want the guests to, you know, tell stories, but like usually, you know, stories from like the 60s, the 70s, or all the way through now. It's just because, again, I think a lot of the new supporters don't know anything about the history of the club. You know, I always say, hey, pick up a book, read, you know, what went on before 1995, and just learn something. And I mean, that's why I thought it was pretty great that you did the Alan Hansen one as well, because, like you said, it does represent, you know, part of the history of this great club. Yeah,
and it was nice to do a player that's not overrepresented already. So he was a great player, no doubt about it.
He's Alan, quiet person as well.
Yeah, but you know, the obvious choices when people get a Liverpool mural are like, you know, your Shanklys, Dalglish, Gerrard, and nothing wrong with that. But it was just like, even Henderson ended up having 2 murals, and it's like, let's have a player who's meant a lot to us, but you know, doesn't always get the recognition. So it was nice to do that as well. And yeah, I mean, I say all that, but funnily enough, I've got one coming up after this mural that I'm doing here. I'm doing a Kenny Dalglish one, so you know,
nice. Oh, you can't get more iconic than Kenny, you know.
Yeah. So, but you know, it's what the client wants. So, and actually, it fits the space, which isn't the easiest space to work. So, yeah. So there will be another Kenny one.
Nice. And then you've also got the Jurgen one at Jurgen's Bar. and
and
then the mural for the 96, now 97, which is awful. Do you ever think of going back and redoing that?
No, I think that would be. I don't know. I think because that was represented by the cop one day, so it's kind of like, in a funny sense, it'd be like changing history. I know history is course 97, and it's a terrible thing. But you know, it's like, I don't know. It would be weird to do it. It's like altering it when it's like, well, that's not what happened. It was 96, and I suppose. I mean, that is a Liverpool bar, so everyone who goes in there should know anyway. But I suppose people who do go in, if they talk about it, then you can explain, you know, that it was 96. And for a long time, it was 95, and then it became 96. And actually, knowing the fact that it's not everyone who died that day or the day that followed, it's the fact that there are more people, the number has changed, just tells the story more that this is a long impact thing. This is not something that ended that day. So I think that's important to recognise. So I mean, if they asked me to change it, yeah, I'd listen to them. But I don't know. Me personally, I think it should be left as that.
How many Liverpool murals do you have? I mean, about the football club.
Off the top of my head, it must be about 6 or 7 now. With another one coming up, as I say.
Oh, that's great too. If you have number 7, Kenny,
I'd have to sit down and check that because I can't remember. Because I did one in the beer cellar. I don't know if you know the beer cellar in Liverpool 1. So yeah, they've got like a big room for watching the footy with a massive screen, and one side was Everton, one side was Liverpool. So it was like Shankly and Kenny on the Liverpool side, yeah, with all the flags. So that one come out quite well, but it's a little bit hidden, to be honest. But I'm quite proud of that one because it turned out good, yeah.
Because as you know, Liverpool is a melting pot, you know, for artists and for musicians. Do you know like some of the other artists that have done, you know, like the Anne Williams one, you know?
I did that one.
You did that Anne Williams one? I did not. I did not know that. Wow.
I know him quite well. Yeah.
Oh wow. No, oh man. Now I feel like a fool.
Don't worry about it.
No, that's absolutely boss. Just because you know, she meant a lot to Liverpool Football Club and Liverpool. You know, she did a lot for the Justice campaign. And it's a shame, you know, that she didn't get to actually, you know, see at the end what really, you know, what went on, the judgment and everything. But you did her proud. Let me tell you that.
Out of all the Liverpool ones I've done, I mean, and I'm not just saying it because of what you've just said, but that is the one I'm most proud of because from an artistic point of view, I think it's come out well. So I'm really proud of how it's turned out technically, but in the bigger picture, like you were saying there, what she's done is fantastic. She's a lesson to the world, really, about, and this is one of the things that I sometimes get annoyed about with Hillsborough's, that other football fans think sometimes it's just a Liverpool thing, or other cities think, oh, it's just about Liverpool. I know to a large extent it is, obviously, but I try to get across to people who aren't from the city or aren't even interested in football that the fight that happened afterwards is important to society. The fact that we were kind of expected to just go away. They tried to baffle people with legalities. They tried to stretch it out, wear people down. That was the whole point of why it got so stretched out. And I see it now, and it's like, it's a challenge to the system, and it's not a challenge to the system for the sake of doing it. It's a challenge to the system because it needed to be done. And so she was kind of like a beacon of perseverance, and fighting for justice, which is essentially what she did. And they tried to kick her down, and she learned law and everything. And I think now when you see things like what's happening with Grenfell, it's like these are the lessons that should be learned. And then you speak to a lot of people in Liverpool, and they saw when Grenfell happened, they knew what was coming. Mm-hmm. They said these people who aren't rich people who live there, they're going to try and wear them down. They're going to try and make them confused with legalities. And it's still happening, and it makes me a bit angry, but she represented the good that comes out of that, and that's what we tried to capture in the mural. And I got to meet her daughter, and yes, she loved it. It made her a bit tearful, but kind of, I take that as a sort of good thing, because it like made her remember her mum. So that is, when you do something like the Anne Williams mural, it's a massive pressure, because if you don't do the portrait justice, and if you let the family down, you feel terrible. So it is a lot of pressure. Yeah.
But when you do murals as well, like, I mean, do you camp out there just so nobody, like some little moron comes along and like, I mean, what's the process?
No, see, a lot of people have this misconception that I see it on Twitter all the time, or on Facebook, that when I'm working on a mural, that'll just get ruined by the taggers. You see it all the time, and it's such a kind of pessimistic sort of pop at it, because people are trying to improve an area, and it's like, it's an easy dig saying, the taggers will get it. But do you know what? The taggers rarely touch it, because it's not. People say, is that out of respect? I don't think it is. It's just because the tag doesn't show up. So it's better if they tag a white wall, or even a brick wall with white paint. Mm-hmm. That works better for them. And there's a high chance if they deface a piece of street art, within a week or two, it's going to be fixed. So it's kind of futile for them. Mm-hmm. So no, I try to sort of like, I'm not a fan of work in progress photos, because so often you get judged on them, and it's like, people don't have this concept of what a work in progress is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you wouldn't walk in, if you were getting your kitchen rebuilt, you wouldn't walk in halfway through going, well, this looks terrible. Yeah. There's boxes everywhere, but that's what I get. So I don't post pictures work in progress. So I try to work as quietly as possible. Of course, when you're working on a main street and that, you can't always, and there's always a bit of a race for people to get photos on Instagram and stuff. And so you can't always avoid it, but yeah, by and large, I try to keep it quiet, but you can't cover up a mural that big. It's just, if it gets out, it gets out.
I saw some horrible responses. The new Steven Gerrard one on the Sand-On.
I've seen it. Yeah, it's come out quite well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's come out really well. But I guess somebody had taken a picture of half of it, saying like Steven Gerrard's face looked like a gorilla. It wasn't, and I'm like, you're looking at the beginning, and at the end, it came out really well. I mean, people are so quick to judge.
It's the thing I hate most, because it's like, they want to feel clever, or that they're criticizing it, and they're criticizing something that isn't finished. So It's like, how can that be fair? It's like, I don't know. If you take like a great song like Bohemian Rhapsody or something, there was probably times where they were like, "What the hell is this?" Mm-hmm. It took them a while to get it right, but they don't play you the tape where they got it wrong. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm on a big job in Ainsdale, and I literally put the undercoat on, and this is a massive mural. It's like the second biggest painting in Britain, and I put the undercoat on, and you just put a base colour down, because you need something to work with. If you don't put anything down, you don't know where you are in the mural. And I'd use bright colours, but I know full well that I'm going to go over them and add shade and stuff. Some of the criticism I was getting. So one woman wrote a letter to the newspaper saying, that she was an artist, but she already knew it was going to be rubbish. It's like not even 20% done, and said, I don't even know what it's going to be. So you know more than me.
That's bizarre. I mean, to write into a newspaper, you must have a sad life.
She just needs a hug, maybe.
Well, one of my favourites from you, obviously, I'm a massive Adidas fan. The missus is like, when you're going to stop? I'm like, well, until I, find that shoe that I've always wanted. But, you did the mural for Jockey for Chancelpino, the Wade Smith one. That's one of my favourite ones from you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's still there. It must be about 3 years old now, yeah. But, yeah, a lot of visitors to the city are a bit, they don't really know what that is. But obviously, people like yourself who are into trainers know that that's where the original Wade Smith was. I'm too young to have gone to the original one. I used to go to the one down Matthew Street.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, his son got in touch with me, Wade Smith's son, and he was like made up with it as well. But I don't know if you've seen the other one I did, the away days one. Have you seen that?
Not yet.
Have a look. That's on the side of Prenton Park, so it's
a good area.
There was a film, Away Days. It was like a sort of hooligan film set in the 80s. And I believe it was meant to be about Tranmere, but for legal reasons, I think it remains clubless. But basically, you'll probably like it. It's like a load of, all it is the feet. They're sat on the edge of the railway station.
Oh, yeah, it's got the Forest Hills trainers.
That's the one, yeah.
With the yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, funny you say that, because someone put a picture up when I wasn't finished the night before, and one of the comments was, Forest Hills are meant to be yellow, and you literally see me in the picture still painting, and I was like, can't win here.
Yeah, those are actually the ones I've been looking for. I've got the Forest Hills with the orange. But yeah, no, it's iconic for me. Growing up, was never allowed like a good pair of trabs. It was always like Dunlops. So I think that's where my addiction comes from. Is I was able to finally afford my first pair of Adidas, and then it just went on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Me closet is just full of I collect the boxes as well, because I always tell me missus, look, I'm doing it for me kids. And she's like, well, I'm like, well, maybe when I leave this world, they'll be left with one hell of a collection, and with the original boxes as well. They can do what they want with it, and hopefully, maybe make some money off me.
Yeah, my mate does the same with guitars, and he uses the same excuse.
Yeah. We've got to have an excuse, for everything. But no, yeah, that's one of my favourite ones, because it takes me back to a time that was in my youth and everything, where I used to travel, go watch Liverpool in Europe and stuff, and come back with a few extra accessories. Yeah. Whether I bought them or not, that's for somebody else to find out. But as we're getting down to the end now, what would your little art legacy like to be?
I don't know. As I was saying earlier, I've always thought that it's nice to sort of brighten people's day, or just to make them smile for a moment. And a lot of feedback I get is that it brightens up an area. Street art has become really popular, and it's just by chance that I've got into it at the same time. Whether I do street art for the rest of my life or just become a more sort of regular artist, I don't know. I do prefer working on the large scale. I mean, there's a few things that plan, but at the moment, I am just enjoying. It's a cliche, but and I hate it, but I am just enjoying the journey. It's like I never dreamed it would be as big as it is now for me personally. And every couple of months there's a new big surprise. Like this one I'm working on now, so huge that if you'd have asked me 2 years ago if I could even think about doing something this big, I'd have been scared. But things just keep happening, and it's great. It just seems to be on a real roll at the moment. I don't have any children. Someone did say to me once, the reason you're doing the street art is because you haven't left a legacy and because you haven't got kids. So this is your way of leaving something in the world. So I don't know if that's the darker side of it.
Well, it's great too because, it's not just Liverpool. I mean, I saw the one in Southport you did. I actually went to high school in Southport. So I know it really well, but it was the... Catherine Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn. Yeah, Audrey Hepburn. Yeah, sorry. That and because she's very iconic, and your John Lennon one. It does. It brings a smile to your face. Even that it was David Attenborough. He did for the
that's
school.
School that,
yeah. I mean, if I was a school kid, because I'm sure, when you went to school as well, there was nothing like that in my school. It was just plain walls. I mean, that would have brightened my day if I saw something like that. And it would be nice. I
do have some kids come up to me, and the kids actually seem to be more aware of my work than the parents, because I think in a lot of schools they teach about it now because it's happening around the city and the kids can see it. So it's really nice when kids come up to me and like the parents bring them sometimes to a site I'm working at and say they wanted to meet you because they love what you do, and it's like, that is nice. And if that makes them paint and do something like that, not all of them will be painters, but at least they'll be creating something. And I think when I was at school, art and creative things was they were sort of second fiddle to your more conventional sort of sciences, languages. Schools wanted you to become like work in medicine, or if you were clever, be a lawyer or something like that. When I do the odd school visit, and what I find out now is that they are pushing them to be more creative, because now that everything's online and there's a lot more media consumption, jobs in the future are going to be more creative. So it's nice that the kids are seeing it, and they do sometimes come and bring drawings to show me. So it's like, that is really sort of, it makes you warm and fuzzy inside. That's nice.
It's got to. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Paul. If you want to go check out Paul's artwork, well, I mean, try and get over to Liverpool, Southport, Ainsdale. Absolutely amazing street art. But if you can't get over there, go to paulcurtisartwork.com. And can people buy prints from you?
There's some, yeah. I have actually been working on a load of new ones that should be going on there soon, but it's a bit of a long process getting them all the right photos and getting them printed and checking them and all that. But there will be some new ones before Christmas. Yeah.
What about t-shirt wise?
I do have some t-shirts, but I don't know if I'm going to carry on them. They don't really work. So.
Well, I mean, everybody seems to be, putting out t-shirts in Liverpool these days.
Yeah. No, do you know what? You just remind me I have to get cracking on the calendar for this year coming. That always takes a while to put together.
I bet. Well, again, it's been an absolute pleasure, Paul, and I really do appreciate you, spending an hour with me.
No, thanks for having us on. I've enjoyed it too. It's been great.
All right, cheers. Well, thank you again to Paul Curtis, and thank you again, everybody, for listening.